Joining me here from Sports Illustrated, back here on the Rich Eisen Show, is none other in person here in Los Angeles. Tonight's Heat-Lakers game is the finale, it seems, of the Dwayne Wade, LeBron James on the same court era. Chris Mannix, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Rich. I've always wondered, from the last time I was here, are these chairs like sheekishly busted or just like regular busted?
They need attending to.
Yeah.
They need attending to. I just think, though, on television, though, it looks like they're sheekishly busted.
Okay,
But since you are mentioning it, and I'm always honest with my viewers and listeners, I think it does need some attending to.
Yeah, maybe.
Would you like it, though? I mean, we can give it for your closeout right now.
I would say this.
Chris.
You know who would take it is Paul Pabst. Paul Pabst and I are neighbors up in Vermont.
Are you really?
His house is basically decorated by things that used to be in the Dan Patrick Studio.
It's odd that Paul Pabst would be accused of trying to use his Dan Patrick Show position to feather his own nest. That is a shocker to me.
There are some plush leather chairs in that Vermont man cave of his.
From the Dan Patrick Show on ESPN.
Stuff I've sat in the past. It's wow, this feels familiar. I get this.
Well, is that a new fantasy team name?
I think that's a pretty good fantasy name. Sheekishly busted.
Sheekishly busted.
Right. Pretty good.
I like it, and that's the avatar. Could be our chairs that have been here since day one. Okay, where do we start here from this weekend? Let's start with the Celtics making the Bulls the worst ever on a single night. That they lost by 56 points to Boston. What does that tell us about either team as it currently stands right now?
That was one of those, like the stat sheet just told like 50 different stories. Like Daniel Tice had like the fourth highest plus minus in NBA history. It was plus 50, something I've never seen before personally.
Do not adjust your sets.
In a game. Mm-hmm. The Bulls stink. We know that. They had a nice little win over Oklahoma City that gave them a little bit of a bump, but they're a terrible team. I think it says more about the continued advancement of Boston and gives us more optimism that the Celtics are starting to turn a corner here. I mean, they were, I don't want to say prohibitive favorites, but big favorites to win the East coming into this year. They struggled, but over these last 5 or 6 games, it feels like they've discovered something. And the biggest thing I think they've discovered is a lineup that works. They started the season, Rich, with an offensive-oriented starting lineup. They're 5 guys: Tatum, Brown, Horford, Irving, and Gordon Hayward. And that never really worked. There was no balance to that lineup. They moved Hayward to the bench. Jaylen Brown is on the bench. And now it looks like they have like 2 distinct units that are starting to mesh together. So the schedule's been pretty lousy over the last couple of weeks, but I do think that Boston is figuring some things out.
Well, they're sitting there at 15-10 right now, with the Raptors having lost a couple in a row. You got the Bucks sitting there as the 2 seed in the East. And if you think a 15-10 team is figuring it out and making the playoffs, then you must definitely think a 16-10 team in the West that you said is not making the playoffs is definitely going to make the playoffs, in the Los Angeles Lakers, who just beat down the Memphis Grizzlies on the back end of a back-to-back to take a half-game lead over said team in the Western Conference standings, Chris Mannix. Am I putting words in your mouth?
I think so. Okay. I think a few. I am standing by my prediction that the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs. They're doing things I didn't anticipate at the start of the season. You go back to like Halloween, Rich, and you look at the numbers then. Their defense, I think, was 27th in the NBA. And you sort of extrapolate that out and you say, all right, well, there's no way a team that plays that bad a defense can be a playoff team in a brutal conference. As we sit here talking right now, they're a top 10 defense. Now, again, the schedule plays into it. It's softened over the last few weeks. LeBron has been superhuman. But I looked at a team that didn't have a lot of plus defenders, and I wondered how they would get to that level. They've gotten to that level now. Now, the biggest question here is, can LeBron keep this pace up? He's playing like 35 minutes a game once again, Rich. And we all think LeBron is superhuman, that he's different, that he's transcendent. But at some point, this all has to catch up to him, because it's not 35 easy minutes that he's playing.
Right.
It's 35 lead the team in scoring, rebounding, assists, shoot 50+% from the floor. He's got to do a lot of things for this team to win games. I don't know that he can continue doing that over the course of a season.
Well, it's not as if the cupboard's bare. And I guess that is the conversation while we are hearing the rumors that the Lakers are in on Trevor Ariza right now on a 3-team deal and whoever else they might be able to bring in to improve the situation, that there are some young stud-like players on this team, on this roster, that either have the ability to maybe be, and that's the phrase I've used here before, the analogy to Victor Oladipo-like, to go from somebody who has potential to, boom, superstar, to be that number 2 guy for LeBron, or the sense that that can't happen because LeBron is doing too much. Where do you stand on this chicken-egg subject that's going on here in Los Angeles?
It's a good way to put it. More towards the latter. I mean, you mentioned Oladipo. He only became Victor Oladipo when he left Oklahoma City and got out of Russell Westbrook's shadow and became the man on his own team. Is it possible down the line that Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, handful of other guys on that team?
Hart's
been, he's
coming off the bench, but I'm saying, I mean, he just lit it up in Memphis.
He's solid. He made a lot of threes in Memphis, and that's another part of the Lakers that they need to do to have success any given night. But I don't know. I mean, LeBron, he's such a high usage rate player that is it possible for really anyone at this stage to develop to the level that they could develop to playing alongside LeBron James? Now, they can still be consistent. Hart is not an alpha. Kyle Kuzma, I'm not sure really is an alpha. These guys are kind of built to play off of a LeBron James. But Ingram is the most interesting. Like, what would Ingram be? We saw what Ingram could be last year, 16, 17 points per game on a bad team. What would Ingram develop into without LeBron James there? With LeBron there, he's being asked to play in the corners. He's being asked to cut, do a lot of things to play off of LeBron. Can he develop into that number 2 guy with him there? That's just a great unknown.
Chris Mannix here on the Rich Eisen Show. And LeBron, as we all know from his Twitter feed, slept for 11 straight hours from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock, slept through the Spring Hill Entertainment Christmas party. That just also happened.
It's called like Tuesday for you, right?
That's right. Please tell me about it. I would love that. I'd love nothing more than have the ability to do something like that. It also happened right in the period that Rick Bucher's article had come out. So that was an interesting sort of dark period. I'm going to flip this question for you on its head a little bit, Chris Mannix. Next July, the Lakers are in the business of finding a Robin for LeBron's Batman. Who are the other teams that will be more attractive, do you think, based on the sense that there are stars who don't want to be that Robin? What are the other spots that you think might fill in here?
I think the Clippers have emerged as the most attractive alternative. They're doing what they said going into this year was that they were going to rebuild and win at the same time. How many times have we heard that from all sports? Like, we're going to rebuild, but we're not going to tank it out. And that just never seems to kind of correlate. The Clippers have done that up until this point with good drafting, moves like getting Montrezl Harrell in there. They've done some smart things with that team. Now, not only do they have the LA destination, not only do they have a elite level head coach in Doc Rivers, but they present an opportunity for someone to step in there as the alpha, be it Kawhi Leonard or Jimmy Butler or somebody else. You have a team that's loaded with really good role players that just needs a star. That's the exact opposite of the Lakers, which has the star, but not the depth of role players I think the Clippers have.
Okay. Isn't that interesting? The Clippers are sitting there at 16-9 right now. The top of and that's good for 4th in the Western Conference. The Warriors have won 3 in a row. Guess what? They're now 18-9 atop the West. Are we chill on them now? I mean, Boogie Cousins is getting ready to start.
But it's Steph
coming back, right?
Steph back. Draymond, is he back or coming back, or he's right there? They're going to be fine. I mean, to worry about the Warriors, you have to assume there's anybody out there, just to boil it down, beat them 4 out of 7. A full-strength Golden State Warriors team. How do you take 4 out of 7 games against them? The Rockets came close, but the Rockets blew up their roster this past offseason with some of the ancillary moves that they made. I don't see a team out there, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, that can do that, especially when you see what this team can do when it's at or close to full strength.
Okay, a couple more quick hitters for you here, Chris Mannix. Luka Doncic. Right now is just lighting
this is a thing for
Dallas.
Me, Rich.
It
drives me bonkers when NBA executives, and they do this a lot, don't trust their eyes. Like nowadays, a lot of executives they want to take like the college freshman or even younger if you can get if it goes to that point in a few years, because they want to take the potential. They look at a guy like Luka Doncic, who still has potential, 19 years old, but they look at a guy like Luka Doncic and they start to nitpick a little bit. They start to say, look, his athleticism isn't at the highest of levels. Well, who cares when you're winning awards in the EuroLeague, when you're playing for Real Madrid since you're 16 years old? Luka Doncic, and this isn't an insult to DeAndre Ayton or Marvin Bagley or any of those guys, but Luka Doncic should have been the number one pick in the draft. The Phoenix Suns should have looked at him and said, that guy is a bona fide star based on the fact he has already been a bona fide star in Europe throughout his teenage years. So I think the teams that passed on him, the two there, obviously Atlanta making that deal involving Trae Young, I think they are going to look back in the years to come and say, wow, we really missed on this guy.
Well, I think he's already established in the league. The most impressive thing about him, I think, is that we're 2 weeks before Christmas, and the refs are already allowing him that extra step in his drop-in three-pointer, the Harden move that they're allowing right now. I mean, the number of times I've seen it, it blows me away every time I watch it. I have, and I fully admit this, slowed it down on occasion. There's a third step. A lot of the time.
The secret to that is, as players that have done that move, or players in another context, players that play overly physical, if you do it enough times, the refs just say, screw it. He's going to keep doing it, so I'm going to, let him.
Is that an insider? Is that an insider take right
there? That's great. Let me write that down.
They just say, it's like we're not going to call it every single time, so we're just going to keep doing it.
It's amazing.
But it's just amazing that he is so fun to watch. Like, he has made the Dallas Mavericks must-see TV. And it's amazing, too, that the Mavericks are going to go from 20-plus years with Dirk Nowitzki to maybe another 20 years with Luka Doncic, two of the already arguably the greatest international player in NBA history, to a guy that has the potential to join that list.
All right, and where do things stand with Trevor Ariza? He's clearly in play right now, correct?
He is the guy that right now every team wants. I mean, it's borderline hilarious that Phoenix signed him to a $15 million per year contract, and we're talking in early December, like, how do they get rid of him?
They're 4-22, I guess.
But why bother signing him? Like, I mean, it just to maybe get an asset back in a deal, possibly, but I'm not sure. What teams are at, what the Suns want right now is either a young player, be it a point guard or some other position, and a draft pick. You're not going to get that for Trevor Ariza at this point. There was some talk in Philadelphia before the Markelle Fultz situation went a different direction. Maybe you swap Markelle Fultz for Trevor Ariza at this point. The bottom line with Ariza is that there are a number of contenders that see him as the guy that could help take them to another level. He isn't playing as well this year as he did for the Rockets last year, but he's such a great glue guy. He's versatile. He's a terrific locker room guy. There are going to be a dozen teams that are trying to get their hands on Ariza, either via trade or the hope that the Suns buy him out before the end of the season.
All right, and I saw he did get, Jordan out of his seat, pumping his fist this weekend, but Kemba Walker is on a 13-13 team in the East for the Hornets. Is he in play too? Could he possibly be coming out here to Los Angeles? Could he be on the move this year, or is he a next summer situation?
Here's the one question you have to answer if you're the Charlotte Hornets. Is Kemba Walker, approaching 30 years old, worth a 5-year supermax level deal, $220, $230 million? This year he's playing like it. But a guy that has the size of Kemba Walker, oftentimes, if you look historically, they don't age all that well. So at some point with Kemba Walker, you might be paying a lot for past performance. That's the question. If the Hornets say, look, we're not going to do that, maybe you can trade Kemba Walker and attach one of their myriad crappy contracts that they have on their roster to that, like a Nick Batum or somebody else. If they do believe in Kemba Walker, they have all the tools in the world to bring him back. Kemba wants to be there. He's basically Mr. Charlotte on the Mount Rushmore of Charlotte Hornet players. If they're willing to pay him, Kemba Walker's not going anywhere.
Last one for you here. Carmelo. What's the scoop?
Just hanging out? Is he, just...
So, yeah, he's on the... I think he's docked on the banana boat in the marina, ready for the call from the Lakers. That LeBron has apparently reportedly said he's not going to say anything. He won't say, I want him. But if Magic and Pelinka think that he could make a fit, I think he'd welcome him.
Has LeBron ever made an effort to play with Carmelo Anthony?
Let me think about that one for a second. Not really, right?
Not really. And that's not to say he doesn't think that they could mix, but he's never looked at him as being the ideal teammate for him.
Right.
So that says something. Carmelo, and I haven't checked in a few days or even a week now, but they're looking for a team that wants him. And the Rockets are doing right by him, keeping him on the roster. I mean, they could waive him at any time, but they're looking around the league for a team that wants him. The teams that were interested in the past, Miami, not all that interested right now. Portland, not interested right now. What I think they're looking for in Carmelo's camp or waiting for is some kind of injury to a team that has a player like him that he could fit in. But Carmelo Anthony, and I've kind of used this comparison before, he's an analog player in a digital age. He can do one thing, and he can't do it as well as he used to be able to do it. So all his weaknesses become magnified as a result.
Good to have you here, sir. Thanks for joining, Chris Mannix.
Nice out here. It's
Anytime.
California stuff.
Come on out
stuff.
here. I mean, we're just down the street from the Lakers. Yeah. We're just down the street from, Staples. We're out here just anytime. We'll see you soon. Thanks for being here. Chris Mannix is on, check him out on Sports Illustrated and then locally in the Boston area as well. Correct?
Yes, NBC Sports Boston.
All right, Chris Mannix here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.